please rise for a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Zor.
Mr. Casey?
Present.
Mr. Donovan?
Present.
Mr. Dwighty?
Present.
Mr. Martinelli?
Present.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mrs. Oleski?
Present.
Dr. Ron?
Here.
Mr. Sheridan?
Here.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Present.
9 present, 0 absent.
Communications to the board, Attorney Menorah.
Executive sessions were held on Monday, April 28th, this evening, May 5th, and Friday, May 2nd, to discuss personnel, labor relations, and litigation.
Okay, visiting delegations. Dan Lamagna.
Good evening, Director McWiggin, Board of Directors. A few concerns I wanted to bring up this evening. You started with the taxes, and there was discussion of raising the school taxes. 2006, I had the opportunity to sell a home in Blakely and move to the East Mountain. At the time, the market was booming. Here we are in 2014 in a buyer's market. Values down. We have the transfer tax, the wage tax, biggest tax hike ever. I just can't place enough emphasis and can't afford to have another tax increase. You know, what do we have to show for it? A second concern with these big decisions that you face as a board is accountability to the board. I know if there's in the newspaper, a school board director has a violation, we should be teaching our youth that sometimes you have to give something up. And I would hope that if the president of the board asked for a resignation, that the rest of the board would support it. And we get past the days of being divided and then doing what's right. And then just the last concern, for sure, also everybody in here is the seating in here. I mean, we can't even fit everybody in the board. I keep reading these articles in the paper that bring concerns, and you want the community to come out and support, and we can't even fit in the same room. I don't know if there's something that says we have to have one here. I do know you rotate meeting places. I'd like to see us go where we have enough space. Thank you.
Thank you. Ozzie Quinn.
Good evening, Board. My name is Ozzie Quinn. I appear here for you tonight wearing two hats, serving as both the president of the Scranton-Lackawanna County Taxpayers Association and the Hill Neighborhood Association. My purpose tonight is to oppose the proposed property tax increase above the 3.1% index. In 2014, Scranton homeowners had a 56.7 property tax increase along with a 53.3 garbage collection fee. This went from $178 to $300 annually for city garbage collection. If you consider garbage collection as a tax, the Scranton homeowner has had a 110% tax increase for 2014, and now you want to hit the taxpayers with another proposed 4% in taxes. How do you believe our taxpayers can afford the 4% increase on top of the 110% city tax increase that we have this year? Let's look at the city's socioeconomics. The area has the highest unemployment rate in the state, 7.7. The state is 6%. The national is 6.7. There's a 20.7 poverty rate in the city. Again, 1 out of every 3 kids is below the poverty level. 67% of the school district students are either receiving a free lunch or reduced lunches. The median household income is $37,099. Many senior citizens' only income is fixed Social Security. Some getting only $500 to $600 monthly. With this paltry income, how they expect to buy food, pay utilities such as heating costs, electric, water, and sewer bills? What about home repairs if they're roof leaks? How can you expect them to pay more taxes? Look at the high number of home foreclosures and sale of homes for unpaid city and school property taxes. Hundreds were unable to pay the $178 garbage collection fee last year that the past administration increased to $300. Look at the city debt. Forget about it. St. Francis Kitchen is feeding families and individuals they never saw before. Go for a meal. Early this year, I had a conversation with the Lackawanna County Tax Bureau Chief, Ron Kolcheski, regarding delinquent tax sales administered by the Bureau. I was taken by surprise when he told me the lack of property owners who are not taking advantage of two property tax relief programs offered by the state government for qualified property owners, namely the Pennsylvania Homestead Act and the Property Tax Rebate Program. I believe in the best interest of the school board to make more property owners aware of these programs so the taxpayers can get some relief with their taxes and may help them from becoming tax delinquent, thus embellishing revenue for the school district. I was able to help a few families this year by making them aware of these two programs that they didn't know anything about. Also, I want to point out briefly something regarding recreation in the summer months for school district children. The Hill Section kids, if they want to swim at the historically neighborhood pool at Naog, they have to pay $5 individually, which money is used to purchase city pool chemicals. Now, I know a lot of families, especially these days, are suffering financially and cannot afford to give up $5 for their son or daughter, or maybe sons and daughters. Either they pay or they walk down to Western Field. Is that fair? What school district should be concerned about the Hill Section kids when school is dismissed in June? The school district has 900 teachers. Why can't we think out of the proverbial box and talk to the teachers about volunteering their services for some recreation programs for the students? Case in point is the lifeguard situation, whereby the city must pay lifeguards, pool attendants, etc. Or how about playground activity at the 7 or 9 elementary schools? A couple of days of volunteer with a large workforce could go a long way. I'm the messenger, told to address the proposed tax increase. I realize it appears negative. However, we hope the things I spoke about tonight, my address will remedy some of these needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Rick Bresser.
Good evening. I just wanted to give the board an update since the last athletic council meeting last month. City council will be voting, if not at this meeting, the next meeting, to lease Clover Field to West Scranton for our soccer program. That was something that the board had directed me to start the ball rolling with. Just so that you're aware that when they vote on that, the rest of the paperwork and the lease information will come to the board and to Mr. Menor to discuss what the proper procedure is. And that will be our practice facility. We will still have our games at Memorial Stadium, but currently our soccer team does not have, boys and girls do not have a place to practice. That's why we went forward with this lease. So just you're aware that you may see that in the paper on Thursday, if not this city council, the next one. They're going to vote on that and send it to the school district for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Gatelli.
Mrs. McGuigan, I'm just here to find out if you have any kind of an update on the textbook situation at South Scranton.
Okay. Thank you. Is that it?
Yeah, there's no answer.
Well, yeah, I can give an update.
Mr. King will speak on that, I'm sure, under his
Under my section.
under his report. Do you want to speak to it now, Mr. King?
I could speak to it now. I've been working with the principals, been working with Follett. We've been identifying where there are shortages. The way this district runs is we're site-based. Budgets are site-based in the schools, and our principals are responsible for ensuring that all the resources are there for the students and the books, and then we typically will order them each year. Every time that we've ever received any purchase orders for books down here, they've gone through and we bought them. So we've gone through, we met with Follett. Follett went through our district and went through all of our textbook rooms and met with our personnel that work in those textbook rooms. They've identified a number of textbooks that they want to buy back from us that are no longer used, they're out, outdated, what have you. We're going to sell those back and then
that will help reduce the cost for replacing textbooks, which will have that all squared away for the fall.
You think that they'll have the textbooks by the
They,
fall?
they already do. In fact, I sent a pen link out across the state, and I heard from 2 different districts. One district, there's a science series that all we have to do is pay the shipping. They're going to ship them to us. So,
Because my one grandson is in 7th grade. He hasn't had a book last year or this year. And
he has,
my youngest
he
one
has a
is
book in his classroom,
in his
right?
classroom, but he's not allowed to take it home.
Right, okay.
So if you want to do any reading at home or read a story in your reading book,
Right.
you have to read it in school, and you're taking up instructional time.
Right.
Or you
Yeah.
can read it at home and then discuss it in class.
Right. I'm not sure if the teachers,
They tell them to Google it.
No, but
One
I'm
of the
saying.
teachers told them to Google
Okay,
it.
I'm not going to debate with you. All I'm telling you is that
Well,
I
there's
will tell
3
you that.
housing projects that go to school there.
I understand that. My
And they're
daughter
very
goes there.
poor.
Mrs.
And I'm sure they
Gatelli,
don't have any
the superintendent
computers
is
to Google it.
speaking.
I'm very upset about it.
I understand.
It's
you're upset about it.
inexcusable, in my opinion,
my
that
daughter goes
students
there-
don't have books.
Okay. Well, I
I
will.
know your daughter goes there too, and you should be embarrassed that your daughter doesn't have a book to
My
take
daughter
home.
brings books home every
Well, I don't
single
know where
night.
she gets them,
She's the same place.
because no one else has them.
Okay. Well, I see kids walking to school with books every single day itself.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Just let me interrupt. It's my understanding that there's a full set of books in the classroom and that the kids are allowed to take them home. All they have to do is ask the teacher.
That's
Have
correct.
we changed that?
No.
However, that is a limited number of books, Madam Chairman.
Okay,
There is a limit.
So
There's
some
books in the
kids are being
desks, so
told,
there's
sorry,
30
they're already
books in the
signed out.
classroom, and the teacher has at least 5 classes a day. So where's the 30 books going to 150
Mrs.
kids?
Gatelli, I asked you not to yell out from the audience.
I'm
You
not
had
yelling.
your chance to speak.
I'm not yelling.
And in many instances, we delivered books.
I don't
over
think
to-
you'd like it if your kids didn't have textbooks.
Mrs. Catella, we found books from some of the other schools and we delivered them down there, and a good number of the teachers said, we just want the classroom sets because they use them kind of as a resource, but we're getting them the textbooks that they need. You asked me a question, I've answered it, and it's being
Well, I'm
addressed.
going to keep
All right.
going back
Here
until
from
they
South
have a book.
Yeah, I have a
Mr. Here
comment.
from South Scranton.
I have a comment on that our curriculum does not call for the latitude of classroom teachers to either use, not use certain books. And like that, we've heard that before. All children are to have a textbook equally distributed at all 3 intermediate schools. That's the situation right now that we don't have. We don't have everybody with a book at all 3 intermediate schools. Our teachers don't have the option or the right to say, well, I don't want to use that book, or we'll just use it as a supplement, I'll do something else. It's absolutely not how this is supposed to work, and I'm offended by our administrators that say it, and I can't let it go any further. It has to stop. Every child at West has a book, every child at Northeast has a book. Why can't we say that about South Scranton Intermediate School?
They don't have them yet, right? They have the books.
They don't have them
Books
yet.
been ordered since the beginning of the year. They do
I mean,
have them.
it's not an option.
We are in the process,
I was here in October.
we were able to get books throughout the district for those teachers. And in the process, we're in the process of ordering books to ensure that they have the textbooks that they need for next fall.
But it's May, Bill.
I understand
It's
this,
May. The school year is 3/4 over and we still don't have textbooks in our schools?
no, not at
And it's a
all.
low
Maybe
achieving
South
school.
Scranton.
It's a low achieving school. It's no wonder they're
Somebody
low
dropped the
achieving.
ball.
They don't have a book to take home. Because they're poor kids, they're being discriminated against? Does all the housing projects go there? That's not right. They
The way
would
that-
stand
the
for
way
it
the
at
order-
Scranton High.
the way-
They wouldn't stand for it at Scranton High, I'll tell you that right now.
The
Because
way-
they get whatever they want.
The way that the ordering of the books works, it's site-based. There's budgets for each and every one of those schools. The principals are given a budget, they meet with the teachers indicate, oh, we're short this number of books. They
Well, then
order-
the teachers need to be told to order the books.
Right, well, we're finding all these things
I
out.
mean, I can't believe you're gonna
Because-
blame the teachers. that the kids don't
Mrs.
have books.
Gatelli, please, you had your chance to
All right, I
speak. The
said enough.
superintendent, yes, you
All
did.
right, I said
And you
enough.
were asked 3 times to let the superintendent
Well,
speak.
excuse
Are you
me.
finished? Mr.
Maybe we
King?
can use some of the busing money to buy books.
I'm gonna ask
Pay
that,
5 times the amount.
I'm gonna ask
Mrs.
that our president
Gatelli.
of our union, would you have any comment on this?
It has been my practice as a teacher in the Scranton School District that I was given a pegboard to fill out every year. And I would fill that pegboard out in the second semester, and I would order the number of books I needed. If I needed 3 science books, I ordered 3. If I needed 30, I ordered 30. And I submitted my pegboards to my building principal, and the building principal ordered the books, and I got them.
There you go. That's the way it works. We've never denied a textbook order down here at the central office.
So it sounds like the teachers weren't filling out the pegboards. And right or wrong, I mean, I agree with Mr. Dewey, if the curriculum calls for the books, then why haven't the teachers ordered them? Because they don't have the latitude.
I will say, though, for the record, that I don't believe everybody gets the pegboards anymore, Mrs. McQuiggan. I want you to know that.
Okay.
If you need me to, I would be glad to do an all-call as soon as this meeting is over, and I'll get you the exact numbers. I can find that out in about 20 minutes.
The question might be, the actual question might be, why is it taking so long to get these books? What is the secret to getting classroom books?
So old.
We're in the process of doing that right now. The one set that I'm looking to get from the one district, they're going to be available in June. We got a hold of the company, had them go around, take a look, because obviously budgetary-wise, we're in a tough place right now. But what we do is go around and have them figure out which ones they can buy back to help reduce the cost to purchase the new books. And that's where we're at right now. The purchase orders are all in. They're just about ready to go out. Purchase
For next year.
as soon as we can get them through.
And Bill, I understand we're in budget problems, but the first thing that should be on the agenda before with our budget is textbooks.
I don't deny that. And as I said, anytime we've had a requisition for textbooks, we've got them. We need to be made aware that they're...
Well, I'm not saying
we
that all the
have been made
problem lies
aware
in your
since
office,
October.
okay? I'm saying
Made
it's lies
aware on
somewhere.
October
We have a problem
24th.
somewhere.
Been on
If our
at least
children are
since
not getting
And it was
that,
then again done at this December committee meeting.
we have to address that.
Right. I agree.
Next speaker, James Elliott.
Good evening. An issue I have tonight is about a baseball coach, West Grant High School. I'm a grandparent. My grandson played since he's a freshman. This year he was thrown off the team because he supported a fellow player. And that's how he is. He supports people. He just doesn't stand by and watch things happen. When somebody needs help, he jumps in. So what happened is one of these players was harassed by this coach. And he does it a lot. He was suspended last year, and he got back.
It was.
He was suspended last year for calling an outfielder out of the outfield, a young boy. He took the kid's glove, and he starts screaming at him. What are you doing out there? Then he takes the glove, and he flings it, and he tells the young man to go behind the school and play basketball by himself. So it all started again this year. My grandson, he told him right off the bat, you're not going to play much this year, because he didn't play Legion for him. He said, you're not going to play much this year. So he said, it's up to you what you want to do. Sit on the bench, chase foul balls. And my son played in a summer league last year with college kids. But he continually harasses children. It's been a known fact. I sent a letter to Mr. Martinelli because I know Mr. Martinelli and he's from my area. And he may have told you what this was all about. So I just want to know if anything's going to happen to straighten this out.
If I could say something to that, everything is being addressed with the situation at the school, and we've had meetings and we've had discussions to fix the situation at our school,
It's, I would say that that's a personnel issue that the principal of the school has to deal with, and we certainly aren't at liberty to discuss somebody's
Just so it's noted, in
issue.
case something happens
We are all
extraordinarily, that it's been documented.
Right.
We don't know. This guy could blow up at any minute. And I feel bad about talking about somebody like that. Because I don't usually, you know, it's hard for me to even be here.
Right.
But now my grandson is not playing baseball no more. His senior year, and he's not playing baseball. Now, his chance of getting a scholarship are done. He even told me, he said, Papa, I'll make the honor roll this year because it's my senior year. And he did, he has. I just told him, I said, Brian, you can't be sticking up for people because nobody appreciates
Well,
it.
that's not a lesson we want to teach kids either.
So
Absolutely
what are we
not.
teaching our kids in the district? To be leaders, or to be have another Penn State issue here?
Right.
Okay, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Is there anyone else who didn't sign in that might want to speak tonight? Report from the PTA representative, Melinda Crocus.
Actually, what I had seems to pale in comparison to what we've seen tonight. We're coming into an exciting season right now where I'm getting ready to choose the awards for our scholarships for the two high schools. But there are several other issues that I want to bring to your attention. One about a meeting with Whittier the other night. There were some parents who left still concerned about safety issues and the move over to whatever you're calling that place, whatever generation you're from, I guess. Nativity, what are you calling it right now?
Marian Catholic.
I'm sorry? Marian Catholic, okay. I hear all these different names. So they're still concerned about that, so you may be seeing more coming on that. We have a meeting on Thursday night. Actually, because of the tax issues that were brought up, to move away a little bit from the monetary side of things, financial capital, we do have a resource, other sources of capital in this town that I like because we have a over full house tonight to say we have the biggest source of capital here we have are you, our parents and our community members. And I want to urge you, I'm sorry, Mrs. right there. Catelli. That there is a PTA Scranton. You can go to your local units about issues like this. We've had a discussion about textbooks. We had a very informative discussion, one of our meetings, about the different kinds of curricular uses of textbooks. I'd like to talk with Director Dwagey about this as we go further into the education committee, but we shouldn't just jump in to get textbooks that might not be necessary for the curriculum. I was assured by principals at that meeting that whatever orders they give in, that they receive all of those orders. We will find out from Ms. Boland who is actually getting their orders in or not. But there are places where we can have a discussion about this outside of this room, where we can talk as parents and community members about these kinds of issues that we see in the paper, and then bring the real questions here if there seems to be some discrepancy. We have a diversity of parents and community members and interests in this town. When I say capital also, I mean, so we would like to see teachers, I'm not sure if the man is here who was just speaking about the taxes, besides you, the other, that we'd like to see teachers volunteering. We have an entire city of people with hundreds, thousands of students here that we could be helping each other out in doing this, creating programs. I am struggling to keep a couple of PTAs alive in this town, alive. Scranton High School is looking for a treasurer. What did she just say? I'm looking for a treasurer, a secretary, and something else. Maybe a vice president. I can't remember what it is right here. We have another PTA who is almost to the point of dissolving out of an entire, from our biggest elementary school in this town, because we don't have enough parent involvement. We have a community that is vibrant, but all insular. This city could be absolutely amazing, amazing. We have amazing individuals in this town, yet they stay apart, face to face. We need less programs and more face. We need to talk to each other. Talk to each other. About me, who has only been here for 5 years. I don't know anybody in this town. I've worked and I've tried and I've talked, but that's the only way to do it. And there are others who are having major obstacles for whatever reason, which I won't name, because they can't connect with people here. We have hearts, we have education, we have amazing people in this town. And I don't want to go on some inspirational thing, but we go to money all the time. There is so much more here. We just need an hour of your time. We don't need a couple parents to do the hundreds of hours of work. If we get 50 to 100 to 200 parents in this town of thousands to do one. So I'm just saying, you gotta come together. We meet now, as we only have one meeting left. We meet Thursday, 7 o'clock at the Scranton High School. Now there we have we try to get representatives of all the elementary schools, all the intermediate schools, our 2 high schools together to talk about these very issues. We have an organization that can do things, and yet it's so underutilized that I'm not at my wit's end because other people have come in and left, thrown their hands up. Pastors come to this town from Cleveland, from other places, right? They come from all over to pastor in this town, and they leave. Why? Because nothing's happening. What do we see in the, I'm sorry, I keep looking at you, but you have a wonderful face that I can
Oh, I love you.
So what do we see in this month? We have the Times Tribune, low achieving schools. We've heard mentioned one. That's a concern. We see a remarkable response to that in the editorials from students of ours. Remarkable. Yet there's still an issue. It doesn't mean that, yes, we have children here struggling, but we still have low achieving schools. Compared to other places around the state, we are underachieving there. Or we're not performing to our potential. That's maybe how we should put it. Maybe you don't like the word low achieving. It is a little bit negative. But we are, if you go earlier in the month, one of the saddest urban areas in the country. We're one of the saddest urban areas in the country. Despair and hopeless. Why? If we actually talk to each other, there's no way that we could be that. There's no way we could be that. So I'm saying as a PTA, parent, teacher, and I would like to put community. You don't have to have a child or a grandchild in the system, because you can take part in this community. These kids are our future, I've said this before, neighbors, doctors, what else would I say? Caretakers. When we get old, they're going to be taking care of us. I mean, we either build this community or we're just going to watch it. So I would urge you all to come to the PTA meetings and give them a little life. It only comes from you. Well, a couple of those things were on here originally. So anyway, the capital, I think, is us as a community. Yes, there's a responsibility of our board to provide the necessities, the basics, but it's people that make this town. So I would encourage you to come and talk about the tech schools, the textbooks, the pedagogy, the curriculum that we're doing. We can have people come to the meeting. Mr. King is there always to tell us, to answer any questions, or at least go for answers. We can call any one of our other people who are working in administration to come. Our board members, if asked, will come. It has been known to happen. It does happen, and we can see ourselves going a little more positively into the future. We also are going to be starting, and I'll end with this. I mentioned earlier in the year, but it has been incredibly hard with dying PTAs to get this. But to start an academic excellence and advocacy group in the PTA. Parents who are specifically geared toward the academic, if they don't want to work on anything else, they can be eyeballing the academic. What are our textbook situations? What is our curriculum doing right now? Pushing, advocating for our students' education, and making sure that they stay on their toes and we stay on ours. So thank you for listening to me. I think that would be it. 7 o'clock, Scranton High School Library, Thursday, May 8th, the evening of Thursday, May 8th, is our next meeting. Organizational meeting for the summer and for next year, because there's a lot to do.
Thank you, Ms. Crocus. Do we have any student representatives here this evening?
Good evening, my name is Taylor Setzer, and I am class president at Scranton High School. My name is Morris Kinsky. I'm student council president at Scranton High School. As the year begins to wind down, the excitement at Scranton High School seems to increase. Friday, the Spanish department of Scranton High School began the Cinco de Mayo celebration. The The department threw a fiasco for all of the Spanish classes with authentic Mexican food. The Spanish classes have spent the past days, including today, learning about the holiday. Today marks the beginning of AP testing at Scranton High School. We have 87 students taking at least one exam, with a total of 182 exams being taken. Scranton High School's Honor Society program will take place this Wednesday, May 7th, in the auditorium. Juniors from Scranton High School will be inducted into the program, and the senior members will be honored. This year, senior members received over $5.5 million in scholarships from colleges and universities across the country. Awards night, to honor all those involved in sports or clubs, will be held next Wednesday, May 14th. Many scholarships will be awarded to our graduating seniors that evening. Scranton High School's sports department will put on their annual spring concert on Sunday, May 18th at 2 p.m. The program features selections sung by the concert choir, chamber choir, and night rhythms. The night rhythms will be performing their first place awarded sets from the festival competition they participated in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
The Scranton High School Band concert is scheduled for May 9th at 7 p.m. The orchestra concert is the 23rd at 7 p.m. The Scranton High School prom is scheduled for May 19th at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Scranton. Students from the Political Science Club will be traveling to Washington, D.C. at the end of May. They will spend 5 days in our nation's capital from Thursday the 22nd to Monday, May 26th. Spirit Week at Scranton High School will begin Tuesday, May 27th. This year, the theme is the Scranton High School Olympic Games. Throughout the week, students can participate in games, winning medals for their grade. The week ends with a Spirit Week pep rally, highlighted by a dodgeball game. Also, Scranton High School will be recognizing National Teachers Appreciation Day with a luncheon in the library for faculty tomorrow during all 3 lunches. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just have a couple of kids extra tonight, and I'll introduce them when I'm done. My name is Paul Miliani, and I serve as Senior Class President of West Scranton High School, and I'm here to share with you some of the notable events and achievements seen at West since the last time I spoke to you, as well as share as many of the upcoming events during the month of May. This past Friday, our school held a dress-down day, which helped raise $750 for AP exams, those of which began today for many of our juniors and seniors. In addition, starting Tuesday, May 13th, students will take the Algebra 1 Keystone exams. At West, 100 students were certified in financial literacy through EverFi. EverFi is a new media learning platform that uses the latest technology to bring complex financial concepts to life for today's digital generation. Students cover topics such as savings, credit score, insurance, credit cards, taxes, investing, 401k, and mortgages. Senior Carrie Anzelevich was selected as a student ambassador among students from other schools in Senator Blake's 22nd senatorial district. Students were given a first-hand look at state lawmaking, citizenship, and public service. Congratulations to Kara. Sophomore Maria Coyne was recently named to the girls' first team All-Stars for the Division I Lackawanna Basketball League. Seniors Jane Joyce and Mason Marcico were each named for honorable mention, and freshman Nicole Stetzer was honored as well. Moving to wrestling, the District 2 All-Academic Wrestling Team named Angel Orzel, Bartley Novak, and Kyle Kriptavich to the first team for their records on the mat, as well as their high scholastic GPAs. 2 students were named to the second team, and 1 student was recognized for honorable mention. Cameron Van Wert, Stefan Capel, and Jason Manning were recently named by the Scranton Times to the 2014 All-Regional Team. And our head coach, Mr. Paul Fox, was also named Coach of the Year as he celebrated his 100th win this season. Congratulations to the wrestling team. Last Monday, Glenmora National Golf Club hosted the Invader Open. This benefited the senior class of 2014 for their Invader Award ceremony to be held on Wednesday, May 28th. There are many events this month for our seniors, starting with Class Day on Friday, May 16th. The participating seniors will be presented in a promenade to family and friends. On Thursday, May 22nd, seniors who will be attending the prom will take the prom promise to promote safe behavior that Friday night. As mentioned earlier, the Invader Award ceremony is to recognize seniors who have participated in a sport or club during high school for 2 or more years, one including senior year. And wrapping up the month of May, for seniors, the CTC will hold their senior awards night. Lackawanna Leadership, Tomorrow's Leaders Today, will host their graduation ceremony for participating juniors on Thursday, May 15th. The student ambassadors from West this year were juniors Andrew Hudak and Sarah Crow. Our band will perform on Saturday, May 17th in the Armed Forces Parade, and our school-wide Positive Behavior Pride team will host another Invader Day on Thursday, May 22nd, for students who have promoted positive behavior this past month. And now I would like to direct your attention to the 4 students standing beside me. and they gave me a letter that they would like to read to you. Dear members of the school board, June 6, 2014 marks the 70th anniversary of the Allied invasion of Normandy. This massive undertaking involved 50 miles of French coastline, 5 beaches, 156,000 Allied troops, 5,000 ships, and a landing craft, 50,000 vehicles, and 11,000 planes. The operation was a tremendous risk. However, triumph was achieved because of the intelligence, coordination, secrecy, and planning. Furthermore, in many cases, the deciding factor was actually the courage, bravery, and sacrifice of the individual soldier. Along with the invasion, this date marks the 70th anniversary of the symbol of West Scranton High School, the invader. In fact, we know of no other school in the world who has adopted these heroes as their mascot. So at 9 a.m. on Friday, June 6th, and under the direction of Mr. Gentileza, our principal, the administration, faculty, staff, and the entire student body of West Scranton High School will commemorate the invaders. Planned events include diploma presentations to some forgotten World War II veterans, in which you are already involved, the presentation of World War II memorabilia to be permanently displayed at our school, and a military flag raising and remembrance ceremony, involving a flag that has flown over the U.S. Capitol in Washington, and which is currently flying over the Normandy American Cemetery in France. Veterans groups will be involved, and we have initiated an essay contest at our school and at West Intermediate. Hands-on World War II military pieces will additionally be on display for our students throughout the day. We would personally like to invite each of you to attend this program. Your attendance to us would be a great honor. Thank you for your consideration. And with your permission, they would like to each give you your invitations.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Report from the PSBA representative.
We had a PSBA region meeting down at Scranton High School with the Northeast region a week Thursday. We had some PA legislators there give us updates, and there's a couple other things covered, and I just would like to thank my fellow board members that were able to attend.
Thank you. The solicitor's report, Attorney Menard.
Just 2 items to report on sale of Marshall and Audubon. Audubon, which Geisinger is purchasing, proceeded through the Planning Commission, and it has to go back to the City Council for final approval and purchase. And as to Marshall, that's scheduled on June 10th, I believe, for a zoning hearing in reference to the zoning issues with the purchaser, who has already given me a copy of a letter of commitment, so the funds are available once the zoning is approved. Thank you.
Superintendent's report. Mr.
Just a
King.
reminder, on June 18th, we're going to have graduation at West Scranton High School at 5 p.m., Scranton High School at 7 p.m. Furthermore, I prepared some paperwork for the board to kind of list some of the things that we've been working on, projects, some accomplishments that we've achieved over the last 4 to 5 years. I'd like to highlight some of the things that we've been able to do. I'm not going to read through the whole list, but just even in technology, we began the ASAP automated substitute calling system. In 2012, we began the Penn Foster Scranton Cyber School. In 2013, we began the e-grade book electronic grade access for parents in the fall of 2012. We upgraded the SSB district website in 2013. We began the ECTV public access channel 21 educational channel in 2012. We're currently piloting study dog electronic level literacy program in 6 schools as possible replacement for the Waterford early reading program. Food service and technology integrated and updated the system in all schools for a point of sale. We've upgraded the eSchool Plus system along with hardware and In education, we've expanded full-day kindergarten to every elementary school in the fall of 2010. We've added 3 new advanced placement courses over the past 3 years, established criteria for AP and honors courses at the high school level, developed academic integrity policy for online created in spring of 2014, established a dual enrollment agreement with Lackawanna College, made improvements and revisions to the summer reading committee, met all of our annual measurable achievement objectives in all 3 areas for English language learners as defined by Title III of the No Child Left Behind Act for 3 years in a row. We began the Lincoln Jackson Academy Alternative School this past year, and we're going to bring that back in-house this year as we move forward. We began school-based behavioral health teams in over 50% of our schools. We began school-wide positive behavior support teams in over 50% of our schools. Scranton School District school-wide behavior support teams comprised of building administrators, teachers, and have presented at the Pennsylvania Department of Ed school-wide positive behavior support conference for the past 3 years. We trained the entire professional staff on professional learning teams in the spring of 2013, implemented professional learning teams at the elementary level and regionalized grade level teams working, collaborating around common core standards. We began training on the Danielson framework, effective teaching, and the list goes on and on. I'm not going to sit here and read this whole thing, but I will have a copy for all of the board so you can see. Under construction, we've constructed the Kennedy Elementary School, the New Whittier Elementary School, Isaac Tripp, upgrades to exterior of the administration building, new roofs at Adams, Sumner, Prescott, Armstrong, South Intermediate. We applied for and received $500,000 capital improvement grant with the Wright Center to completely upgrade all the medical rooms at South, Northeast, and West Intermediate. And we're in the process. Hopefully, we fixed the gymnasium at West Scranton Intermediate School. Some other highlights: we raised close to $35,000 over the past few years to help reduce the cost for Colts bus passes for our students who are economically disadvantaged. We ratified 3 contracts with no strikes or work stoppages over the years. We ran a 4-day work week last summer, which saved close to $44,000 for the district. Trained and implemented Safety and Youth Sports Act, and have used the concussion management team framework to assist with concussion recovery. We've recouped $100,000 from neighboring districts by reconciling child accounting errors identified during the audit review. We've also corrected resubmitted child reporting errors for 11 and 12. We're currently working on closing the PDE and fixing errors identified in 09 with 10 and 10 and 11. And there's a whole litany of curriculum revisions that are in process and listed here. But I thought it was important to highlight some of the things that we've been able to accomplish over the last few years, and I will provide the board with a complete copy of that in your packet on Friday. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. King. Okay, we're going to go out of order to Education Committee to honor some of our students. Director Duahi.
To the members of the Board of Directors of the City of Scranton, the Education Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas Scholastic Magazine recently sponsored a Drive to Life contest with students in grades 6 to 12 in the United States being eligible to enter. To enter, a student had to create a storyboard for a public service announcement, PSA, that demonstrated positive tips to prevent distracted driving. Entries were judged on the quality of the student's presentation and how well it showcased the student's vision for an effective, creative, and compelling PSA message. And whereas over 900 students entered the contest, and the Scranton School Board is proud to recognize Brianna Evans, a freshman at West Scranton High School, for being selected as one of the 4 runners-up winners. Brianna will receive a cash prize of $500, and her teacher, Angela Franick, will receive a 1-year classroom subscription to Scholastic Magazine. Whereas the Scranton School Board is also proud to recognize West Scranton High School students Rayanne Topa, Alexis Smith, and Eric DiNicola, who placed in the top 25 in the contest and will receive an iTunes gift card. Now therefore be it resolved that congratulations are extended to these students, their families, and to their speech and drama teacher, Mrs. Angela Franick, and the faculty at West Scranton High School. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Duahy?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
At this time, will those students that I just named, Brianna, And Rayanne and Alexis and Eric DiNicola, please come forward for a citation along with their principal. Again, who has our citations? How about if we get a 90? Everybody has done such a good job. Congratulations. Mr. Rose is right here for
Mr. Dwight, you can come right over here.
Okay.
I can get you in there.
Thank you.
Want to open them up for just a minute? Hold them up a little higher. Very good. And attention right here. One more. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the consent agenda, items 11 through 15. And I would just like to ask that we just have the consent agenda be items 11 through 14, removing the personnel item from the consent agenda.
I'm lost here.
It's in two sections, consent and non-consent. So you have to look on the consent agenda and put it in non-consent.
Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda, items 11 through 14?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwighty?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
And Mr. Turner.
It's a piece of paper like this. Mrs. Orr, do you have an extra agenda?
Here, I do. I have.
Thank you.
Okay, Personnel Director Martinelli, that would be 10J1.
Members of the Board of School Directors, City of Scranton, is the recommendation of the superintendent that the following be approved. Commissions to attend meetings. I so move.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Dwighty?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
And Mr. Turner.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, the recommendation of the superintendent of schools for the following be approved. Leaves of absence. I so move.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwighty?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Members of the Board of School Directors, City of Scranton, is the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the following resignations be approved. List attached. I so move.
Second.
On the question, okay, on the question, part of why I asked for us to pull this is I just didn't want to gloss over all of the names on this list, some of them having been with us upwards of 47 years. And I just wanted to recognize this as a separate reading of all these teachers who have dedicated the better part of their lives to our district, and I want to thank them for that.
I agree, Mr. McWiggin. There's some unbelievably outstanding educators and paraprofessionals who have really done an outstanding job with our students, and we're gonna miss them dearly. But we wish them well in their retirement as they move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
There's still 2 more personnel under the consent.
Okay, we're going to have a vote on this.
Okay.
So roll call on the resignations.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Hawaii?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
And Director Martinelli, we'll hold those because we're going back to B now. All right. Now the non-consent agenda. Under Budget and Finance, Director Donahue.
It is the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee that the following be considered for your approval. Be it resolved that the Scranton School Board of Directors authorizes the administration to prepare the necessary documentation for consideration and for approval and for submission to the Pennsylvania Department of Education for referendum exception relief for the budget year 2015. Be it further resolved, the Scranton School District will comply with Section 33F of Act 25 of 2011 in applying for exceptions above the index for increased costs in special education expenditures pursuant to Section 333 F2B and retirement contribution Section 333N of the Act. Respectfully submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I would just refer that what I talked to you about last week within the budget for about raising the caps on this. That we have a lot of seniors out there and a lot of citizens out there. In the last 2 years, the county, the city, and both of our school district raised taxes, and there's a big burden on our taxpayers right now, and I just don't believe, I know we have to stay within our budget, I know we have to get the money from somewhere, but we keep on going back to the taxpayer, and I don't believe that this is the place we should go. Should we look at better at our budget and sit down and work out with our pencils? So I will be voting no for raising the cap on the taxes.
Thank you, Director Sheridan.
I would just like to make a note, this in no way sets our tax rates at a certain spot, and it in no way guarantees that the state will accept our, if we were to put in for an exception, there's no guarantee that the state would accept it. It's just 6 months out, it wouldn't be prudent of us not to make this application, put this application in, just to leave it on the table until we could start to really get into the issues with our budget. And it in no way increases taxes. That would have to be another vote in December.
Again, I'd like to say that it opens the door for us to be able to raise the tax cap for the tax increase next year. And I just don't want to visit that at this time. I think it's a big burden on our taxpayers and our senior citizens. Our city right now is in a crippling condition, and I just don't believe that's where we should go. We should look at sitting down and negotiating more with our budget and trying to shave there rather than back to the taxpayers. And that's just my view.
I think it also provides more incentive to actually get to the root of our problems in the budget and to actually make those tough decisions that are going to need to be made.
I think this is this is just a tool in case we need it.
Yeah, it's a sales stage. Yeah.
This is not a
Because the
vote.
last two budgets, we've been going into the building fund, and how much more money can we have in the building fund? Because we know that we're going to have a deficit. And we're gonna need all the tools we can get to try and balance the budget. So all this is a tool in case we need it.
Yes.
On this question,
Every year we would need this.
And we need it.
I mean, every meeting, we go back to the taxpayer
Well,
all the
last
time.
year, what, we got almost 2-point-some million we took from the building fund? The year before that, we took 1-point-some million from the building fund? And you're sure it's gonna have about 4 or 5 million deficit this year. We have to do something, we have to have some tools.
And I'm the one that brought it up last year, that I think that we could have done more with our budget and shaped more and worked it out more without hurting education.
I know, but you can only nickel and dime the budget so much. Whenever you have a $2-3 million deficit, you're not going to get it by a nickel and dime in the budget. It just doesn't happen. It's got to be, as I said before, we have to go to the legislature to get the extra taxes to help these school districts. There's no way that we're going to be able to balance our budget. But they tell us before, there's what, 4 or 5 school districts that are already bankrupt. Within the next couple of years, most of the districts will be bankrupt.
I agree with that. The legislation and the governor, and I hope the new governor moves forward and puts a lot more money into education where we won't have to visit the taxpayer again.
Well, let's hope, but at least let's have this tool in case we need it.
on the question, I actually have to agree with Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Lamagna. Thanks for coming tonight to talk about it. And Mr. Quinn, I can't see moving forward with trying to nickel and dime the taxpayers anymore. So I will also be voting no for this resolution.
Madam President, on Friday, I had a meeting here, hosted a meeting at the Hilton Scranton with Pennsylvania League of Urban Schools, and we had superintendents from York, Harrisburg, Bethlehem, Allentown, Lebanon, Pendelco, or Southeast Delco, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. We released 9 of the larger urban districts, and we had Senator Casey there, we had Senator Blake, and we had State Rep Mike Carroll in the Education Committee. The outlook is bleak, especially for some of the larger urban districts right now. York is struggling big time. Reading is in really bad shape. There were other districts who just couldn't make the meeting, but the cuts are unbelievable that are happening at those other school districts, the larger urbans. So this challenge is massive. We know that the PSERS increases we're going to have to deal with, and the indications were from the legislators that they don't really see that being addressed to the point where it's going to we're going to realize huge savings right away. So that's a massive challenge. We talked about access funding, the fact that districts aren't getting the funds that we should be getting, and they changed the formula in terms of how we apply for it and what's acceptable. That was discussed. Planned Town we discussed at that meeting, and the issues there. Many of the issues that we discussed actually at the PSBA forum as well. But this is a serious problem that we have taken to the legislation and will continue to do so. What Representative Mike Carroll indicated that a couple districts have come out and said they're going to be bankrupt. I think Sealands Road was one, and came with 2 others. He said the projection is 496 school districts are going to be broke. Only 4 can survive if this continues. It's unfortunate, but that's the direction it's going. Especially, we haven't had an increase in special ed funding in 6 years. There's really been negligible increases, if any, over the last few years. Been flat funding for the basic ed subsidy as well. So this is, I think Mr. Martinelli is right on the mark in terms of maybe having this in our toolbox. Doesn't necessarily mean you're raising taxes, but we're certainly going to watch every dollar we spend and do the best we can to try to cut the budget. And I know there's been a lot of budget meetings already this year, pretty consistently. We're trying to watch everything, every dollar that goes in, every dollar that goes out.
Billy, I understand what the other superintendents are saying throughout the other state. But personally, we're dealing here in Scranton with a city that is almost bankrupt itself, okay? We're dealing with seniors out there that are living in homes that just have a $300 garbage fee, a 58% tax increase in their real estate, county tax rates, okay? And I understand that this is a tool, but I am deathly afraid of this tool because I don't think we can go back to our taxpayers anymore. I don't think you can say to that senior citizen that's just about living in their home. I've seen them, they pride saying, I can't either got to order my prescriptions or pay my taxes. I can't bear $1 more. So if we put that $1 more on them, I'm afraid that we're going to lose a lot of our citizens, which we are already. I mean, we can't even pave our streets at this point. It's just that we're in Scranton, Pennsylvania, we're in a desperate. The rest of the school districts are in trouble. We're in desperate times. So I think that tool we better look at very carefully.
And I'd like to just add on the question, I feel the same way. If we allow this, it's just going to give us easy access to go and ask our taxpayers to pay more taxes, and they just can't afford it. We can't afford it, so.
Our taxpayers are going to go bankrupt.
They're going to go bankrupt. It's going to be, so I'm going to be voting no.
On the question, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Between our guest speakers tonight, who are all extremely eloquent and impassioned, every single member of this board and Superintendent King have made excellent points, both for and against raising taxes. We are probably going to incur greater expenses this year than we have. We're opening a new center for a center-based program for autistic support and emotionally disturbed children. We're expanding the Whittier complex to the Whittier Annex. We're incorporating and fully commanding the control and the operation of the alternative program, the Lincoln Jackson Academy. As a district, we are going to have greater expenses this coming school year than we did the previous school year. I heard Representative Carroll at the PSBA workshop. We all did. He was terrifying. There are currently 4 districts in the state that are fiscally insolvent. They're bankrupt. At the current funding levels, the state of Pennsylvania doesn't make any significant changes. In 5 years, there will be possibly 4 solvent, as Mr. King just stated. 496 will be broke. Yet we have an aging population. We have a very desperate community. We had taxes increased from the city and the county. I mean, we're on the horns of the. I don't see any relief coming in any direction, and yet we have to discuss this. I would like to make a motion to table only for the purpose of 1 week that we could entertain more public input as to how we deal with this. I really do believe that everyone in this administration will do everything we can to not raise taxes. But if we have to, it could be devastating. So I think we have to make clear what the public sentiments are and how we should go forward. Let's get more information from them. So I'm going to tonight. I'm going to make a motion to table with the idea of having more public input at an upcoming meeting, and then with the possibility, Director Donahue, to resubmit this for a resolution, even if it's at a special meeting. I don't want to sell it out. I really don't. But I think we should hear more from our public on what they can or can't do.
Question on this, is this on a timeline that we have to get this done? Because
if I may, there's procedurally there's 2 things that need to happen. Either the district applies for exemption, and if they're approved, then that dollar amounts assigned to those exemption and whatever the corresponding millage is would specifically say. So if the dollar amount is, and I'm just going to pick a number, $100,000 for special ed that they would allow, that $100,000 would calculate into our millage, and that's the only percentage above the cap you could raise. So if that'd be 0.33 of a mil, you could only raise 0.33 above the cap to cover that. If they approve retirement based on the calculation that stated that your retirement contribution is $3 million, but based upon the formula and the calculations that we need to do to present back to you to take a look at them, they might say, we'll only allow you an exemption of 1.7 million. So the 1.7 by the millage is what you would be. The rest of the stuff, you're on your own. So that's the idea with the exemption. If you don't apply for exemptions, then you must adopt a resolution that will say that you will not exceed the cap. Those are the only two options you have. You have to do one or the other, probably by at least probably June 20th.
June 20th would be the latest?
Well, June 20th would be the latest to adopt the index. The exemptions need to go sooner, because if they deny the exemption, you must turn around and adopt the index, because they're saying we're not going to give you the exemption. So you must procedurally state that. So you have, I mean, you have a period of time, but it's.
I think it's just important to note that this is not a vote to raise taxes.
Yeah, understand it.
Okay, and specifically, this is for special education expenditures and retirement contributions. And I think that a vote against this, I hate to sound so harsh, but it's a vote against funding special education fully and funding what we've promised to our retired employees of this school district.
It isn't. I don't believe that at all. I believe that we should look, that our legislators should start looking deeper into it. But every time we come back to this
state legislators?
Every time we come back to this table, we're going to the taxpayer.
Do you mean state legislators when you say that?
Yes.
Okay.
Every time we go back to the taxpayer.
Let's not kid ourselves. It's either we're going to adopt and get some tools like this, or we're going to cut programs.
You know, the truth of the matter is, I would be shocked if the state approves this, for the reason being, this board has been very careless for the last number of years by not raising taxes to the full amount we've been allowed to. And that's money we've let sit on the table. This is only approving the application. That's all it is an application that has a deadline, a time.
If I may speak just quickly, the way I prepared the resolution was that what we were going to do was prepare the necessary documentation and give it back to you, the board, to vote on it before we submit it. We were not going to submit it, but you could take a look at what that dollar impact is before we make application. That's how we have it, to authorize us to begin to do the calculations and the work and bring it back to you. We were not, my intention was not to is to do the calculations and then just have it automatically sent in. You'll see it before it goes in, and you'll be able to vote on it before it goes in. That's how we did this.
Greg, you said we have time, or we have soon. How soon? I mean, we have a week, we have 2 weeks, we have 3 weeks?
We're going to need to make a decision to either apply for the exemptions or to accept the index, and we're going to need to do that. You probably 3 weeks before you could the last day you could accept the index, which would be mid-June. So
okay, why don't we call for a special meeting in Scranton High, ask all citizens to come and give their input.
Okay, you're getting ahead of yourself, though. We have a motion to table this.
Yeah, my motion is to table for further discussion.
Second that.
On the question, on the tabling. Roll call.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
No.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Irwan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
No.
Mrs. McGuigan?
No.
5 affirmative, 4 negative, motion passes.
Madam
No,
Chairman,
that's
am I out of turn at this time to ask if we could consider for a public work session like tonight to set a date as possibly at Scranton High School?
Well, we can talk about that under new business.
Okay, thank you.
And since Mr. Sunday said that we don't have that much time, I asked that we move promptly to
Yes.
have maybe the auditorium at Scranton High School so it's big enough to come in and advertise for the citizens of the city of Scranton to come in and please give their input on how they feel that this should go. And then they give us a better base of which way we can move.
Thank you, Director Sheridan.
Thank you, Madam President.
Education Director Dwyer.
To the members of the Board of Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Education Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas the Scranton School Board recognizes the importance of providing appropriate educational facilities for our students, and whereas the Scranton School District has completed a review of its existing school facilities, board-approved boundaries, and school enrollment, and whereas the Scranton School District has identified the need to adjust its existing boundaries due to increased student enrollment and overcrowded in select elementary schools, therefore be it resolved that the board authorizes the adoption of changes to the Scranton School District boundaries as illustrated on the attached maps, and assigns the 4th and 5th grade students from John G. Whittier to attend classes at the Whittier Annex, the former Nativity Elementary School located at 638 Hemlock Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania 18505, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
To the members of the Board of the School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Education Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas the Scranton School District recognizes the importance of criteria, specifically academic prerequisites necessary for administrators, teachers, and guidance counselors to use to make informed decisions regarding the proper placement of students in honors and advanced placement courses, and whereas the administrators, teachers, and guidance counselors work collaboratively to develop a specific list of criteria and prerequisites necessary for all students to meet before being placed in honors and advanced placement courses. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scranton School District adopt the official policy of prerequisites for all honors and advanced placement courses in the district. These prerequisites will replace any previous policies used by district administrators, teachers, and guidance counselors of the Scranton School District, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Labor Relations Director Oleski.
To the members of the Board of Directors, the Labor and Relations Committee hereby recommends the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas the Board of Directors wishes to continue the 4-day summer work week program for the summer of 2014 in effort to save energy costs across the district's 16 school buildings, Memorial Stadium, and the district's administration building. And whereas the Scranton School Board agrees to allow for the extended workday over 4 days from Monday through Thursday each week during the summer, commencing on Monday, June 23rd, 2014 through Thursday, August 14, 2014. And whereas the workday for maintenance shall be from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and the administration and clerical staff schedule shall be 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, with a 30-minute lunch break each day. And whereas the employee shall take a half day off of vacation, sick, or personal leave will be charged for a day off. However, employees who take 4 days off in a row will be charged for a 5th day off, and therefore be resolved, the 4-day summer work week will officially go into effect on Monday, June 23rd, 2014, contingent upon the 1201 SEIU 32BJ union approval of May 10th, 2014, respectively submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
10J4 under Personnel, Director Martinelli.
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to have the first part of this read by Mr. Dwight, since his committee worked so hard on this and did most of the work. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Martinelli. To the members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools that the individuals as listed below be appointed to professional positions in the Scranton School District. Appointments. Professional. Supervisor of Secondary Education and Director of Alternative Education, salary $115,000, goes to Mr. John Marichak, and the Director of the Lincoln Jackson Academy with a salary of $85,000 goes to Mr. Terrence Whalen.
Assignments. Substitute teaching assignments. It is a recommendation that the substitutes listed below be assigned to the positions indicated at the established rate. I so move.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I would like to thank Mr. Dewahi and his committee for all the work they put into both the interview process for Mr. Marichak's position and the amount of time that you spent with your committee regarding the Lincoln Jackson Academy.
Thank you, Director Warren. I appreciate it.
On the question, this to me is a perfect example of what we just talked about. And looking at the salaries of these two directors here, does not look to me like a district that's on the verge of bankruptcy. Originally, when this first one, Supervisor of Secondary Education, was posted, the position was listed to pay $95,000. And then it was taken back in and renamed. And I believe, Director Dewahi, you told me that calling this Director of Alternative Education was a mistake?
No, that actually was a mistake that I made in answering you. I apologize for that. He is the secondary supervisor who also should be supervisor of alternative ed, and as well as the cyber program that should be listed there as well.
Okay. Director Donahue or Mr. Sunday, as far as the supervisor of secondary education that we've had in the budget for quite some time since it's been unfilled, do either of you know what the dollar amount is that we have budgeted for the secondary supervisor?
I think approximately $100,000.
Okay, so where are we getting the extra $15,000?
The extra $15,000 because obviously he would be hired for a limited, he would not work for a full year. So as you calculate the $100,000 out based on that, you would be able to fund this position this year.
Okay, so just to clarify now, starting in December, when we're trying to put a budget together next year, for next year, we're immediately right there, $15,000 more dollars in the hole. So when it comes around to budget time and you ask, how did we get in this hole, Director Sheridan, I just wanted to point that out to you.
You're just the one who just said that we don't look like we're a bankruptcy.
According to these salaries.
It is or isn't.
But if I might be able to add just a little salve to this, we're hoping that we will realize some savings by actually the operation of the Lincoln Jackson Academy entirely on our own.
I understand that.
At least,
right.
It's our hope.
Right, and we're hoping to save, and we're spending our hope already. And for that reason, I'm going to be voting against this resolution. Roll call.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dewahi?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
No.
3 affirmative, 1 negative, motion passed.
Members of the Board of School Directors, City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Personnel Committee that the following appointment be approved. Ellen Gatto, Hall Monitor, Northeast Intermediate School. Lisa Iden, Clerk, Bancroft, number 34 School. Appointment is effective upon receipt of proper federal criminal records, immigration, medical, and child abuse reports. Salaries in accordance with the appropriate salary schedule. I so move.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dewahi?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Purchasing Director Sheridan, 10L1.
Members of the Board of Directors of the Scranton School District of the City of Scranton, Purchasing Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Be it resolved that the contracts for the 2014 art supplies bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidders as follows. WB Mason, Kurtz Brothers, Standard Stationery, Phillips Supply, Office Depot, National Art and School Supply. Total of $15,032.59, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
The members of the Board of Directors of the Scranton School District of the City of Scranton, the Purchasing Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Be it resolved that the contracts for the 2014 general supplies bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidders as follows. Contract Paper Group, WB Mason Stationery, Standard Stationery Supply Company, Lidmeyer Monroe, Kurtz Brothers, National Arts and School Supplies, Office Depot, Buy More, Phillips Supply Company, totaling $198,229.94, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
The members of the Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Scranton, the Purchasing Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Be it resolved that the contracts for the 2014 lumber bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidders as follows. Mann and Parker Lumber Company, O'Shea Lumber Company, Forest County Wood Products, total $16,286.14, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Members of the Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Scranton, the Purchasing Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Be it resolved that the contracts for the 2014 medical supplies bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidders as follows. Henry Sheen Incorporated, Daily Resources. Total $15,266.59, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mrs. McWiggin?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
That's all under purchasing, Madam President.
Thank you, Director Sheridan. Buildings and grounds. Yes.
May we go back to number 19, food services? When I looked on my agenda this afternoon, there was a resolution there to put food services out to bid, and now I look at it tonight, I missed it when we were by it, and it's not there. There was a resolution there this afternoon.
Yeah, well,
Upon review.
Director McAndrew, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I will. There was a resolution that said there was a recommendation of the Food Service Committee, but it wasn't. So there's a Food Service Committee meeting today, and we discussed that it would be prudent at this time to put the contract out to bid. Because of Aramark's performance, they have 2 more renewals.
Okay, in a situation like we're talking about tonight, where we're going and asking the taxpayers to chip in more, why wouldn't we just see, to make sure that we're still getting the best bang for our buck?
Well, they were here to present.
I'm just not sure why we're skipping over this. That's just
Again,
my
I agree,
opinion.
because we also have a resolution to put something else for janitor supplies out. I believe that we should start putting a lot of things out.
That's gonna come up under.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying that there is another bid, but I agree, food services should be put out for bid too, to the lowest bidder. We're just talking about not raising taxes and not doing the cap. And we're looking at to resolve and save money for the taxpayers. and yet we don't want to put our contracts out to bids. I think we should be looking for the lowest responsible bidder to save us money.
The difference.
And quite frankly, Aramark can come out to be the lowest responsible bidder,
Yeah,
and that's
true.
absolutely fine. I don't
Absolutely
understand
true.
why we're shifting over this.
We're just looking for the best buck for the
We
dollar.
had discussion, but if they were not the lowest bidder, we would owe them $80,000 for the point of sale system. All right, it would affect summer feeding, which would affect the students. So I don't think it was prudent at this time to do so. And we took
How
a
is
vote.
how is it with the summer feeding?
They will no longer be here if they lose the contract.
But when we get a new
Do you think they're prepared to come in and do that July 1st? I don't think so. There's
If-
more to it than that.
If that's the case, then I think, and that's a good point. I mean, if it's going to impact summer feed, we certainly don't want that to happen. So going forward, we obviously should be looking at this earlier in the year. I mean, it shouldn't be in the
No
May
doubt.
meeting, it should be in the March meeting. Yes?
Or even
February?
before. We know it's coming up. We
Right.
know when it comes up. And, I mean, it's just different in regard to, like, the bidding of janitorial supplies. We have no contract with anyone on that.
Right.
We're in the midst of a contract, which we can put it out to bid, but then if all the bids came in and we got a lower one, we'd be bound to go with the lower one. At
That
which
would be
point...
the beginning of the school year, correct?
July 1.
July 1st, and at which point we would then have to pay Aramark $74,000 for their point of service system. Money that we do not have in the budget.
But I'm sure we can get the lowest bidder to put a contract and bid between now and July 1st. If you're talking 2 months,
Right.
that's a lot of time.
I don't know how we're overlooking
I don't know what
this.
you mean by that, Director.
Well, you're
Sheridan.
saying the contract ends July 1st.
The new one begins
The new
July
one begins.
1st.
So we have to
Yes.
have a contract in place by July
Right.
31st.
So if ABC
June 30th.
lunch contractor comes in and says, we can do it for half the price of Aramark, we are bound then to go with them, okay? Because they would be the lowest bidder. At that point then, we have to take $74,000 out of our budget and pay Aramark for the investments that they have already made into our district, the point of sale system.
I understand that, but isn't it their contract is up June 30th?
No, their renewal is up.
The renewal is
They
up.
have 3 renewals within their contract. They're projected to return $400,000 to us this year. Do you think there's another company going to step in and do that? They've already made the
How will we
commitment.
know if we don't put it out to bid? I mean, how will we know?
But the prior one, Nutrition Inc.,
Listen,
didn't perform
okay,
anywhere near
the
as well, and they're losing money up in Dunmore.
And the
So
fact of the
we have to
matter
look at what we
is,
have.
Open that we should try. Let them come in and give us a bid.
okay,
If we
but the
don't feel it's a
food
good package-
service committee has decided that they don't want it on the agenda this evening. If you want to bring it up at the next food
I'm on that
service
committee,
meeting.
and I wasn't addressed.
You weren't here.
You weren't here. You
Nobody
should have
said
been
they were
here
gonna have
for
it
it.
on that meeting. I can't make it here sometimes. You people make this meetings for 5:30. We, us business people, don't get out of
Yes,
work
and
until
some of us
5:30.
can't make Friday night meetings at 6 o'clock
Okay.
either. There was a meeting, a decision was made, and we're moving forward with
Mr.
it.
Casey, you're on that committee.
I am.
Yes.
Were you here tonight at the meeting?
I am, and I made the decision along with Mr. McAndrew only because of the fact that $74,000, say we do get someone that comes in lower. It would
That's
be a
not
prudent
necessarily
decision,
true.
and-
That's not necessarily true.
Well, that's just the
I
decisions I
mean,
made.
I'm looking to save this district money. So, I mean, I'm not, like Dr. Ron said, it could be that they come in the lowest bid. And great for the district. District save money, and we go on. But it's an opportunity to open the door and save this district a lot of money. So, like, we're looking at a lot of different bid contracts to put out for bid. So why not this one? I mean, we're gonna go into a whole new year with a new contract with the same old contract without trying to negotiate the best buck for the dollar for this district.
Right.
I don't
And
think
I
we're
will
making
just
a right move.
reiterate.
I don't think we're
We
making a
made
right.
the decision was made at the Food Service Committee meeting. It is not on the agenda tonight. So on to Director Donahue with 10.
Well, then I'm making a motion to table it then.
You're
Till the next
tabling
hearing,
what? There's
nothing.
nothing to be tabled. We've already tabled it. That's my point, Director Sheridan. It doesn't have to be tabled when it's not on the agenda.
Committee is not a board. You got several directors here asking for a change to put out for bid.
There is no resolution to table, there's nothing on it.
You have to have a
There was a
resolution.
resolution in the packet
Yeah,
today.
but the but it said it was by the recommendation of the food service committee. That's incorrect.
And it also
resolution
wasn't
was
talked
written.
about last Monday at our work session.
Yes, it was.
It definitely was talked about at the
Definitely
work
was.
session last week.
Look at the minutes, pull the minutes out.
It absolutely was
It was
talked about
because
at the work
Dr.
session
Rawan
last
brought
week.
it up.
It was talked about, but I was under the impression that there was no decision made on whether to go forward with putting it out to bid or not. That was the impression I got, and that was the
It was gonna
impression.
be on tonight.
So was
Yeah,
I.
so was I.
That's all.
Okay, well,
And
it's
it was
not,
on there
so.
this afternoon, and
10.
then it's
That's right, I got the
disappeared tonight.
resolution 3 hours ago. It said it was recommended by the committee that I'm on, which is untrue.
Not a committee that you're on, a committee
That I
that you're
chair.
the chairman of.
So,
Director Donahue, 10M1, please.
Members of the Board of the School Directors of the City of Scranton, Buildings and Grounds Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas the occurrence of ongoing problems with light fixtures in the nutatorium of Scranton High School caused need for bidding to replace the existing light fixtures. And whereas bids were received from 4 electrical contractors on our April 11, 2014, be it resolved that the Scranton School Board authorizes acceptance of the lowest responsible bid as submitted by Evron Electrical Contractors in the amount of $178,890 and approves the award of the contract to Evron Electrical Contractors. Respectfully submitted.
On the question, roll call.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Luan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
The Buildings and Grounds Committee recommends the following resolution for your approval. Be it resolved, Buildings and Grounds Committee requests permission to bid out janitorial supplies to include cleaning solutions along with their dispensers.
Excuse me, Kyle, 10M2 was skipped
M2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
regarding the controls.
I'm sorry. The Buildings and Grounds Committee recommends the following resolution for your approval. Be it resolved, the Buildings and Grounds Committee requests permission to award the HVAC contract for the district school, and be it resolved that NRG Controls North Incorporated of Selinsgrove be awarded the HVAC contract for a 3-year period with a cost for year 1 and year 2 at $21,000 and year 3 at $21,600. Be further resolved that there is 3 1-year extensions. Price cannot exceed 3% increases in the years. This contract can be voided by the Scranton School District or the contractor with a 30 days notice to the next anniversary date. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Dr. Luan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Members of the Board of the School Directors of the City of Scranton, the Buildings and Grounds Committee recommends the following resolution for your approval. Be it resolved, the Buildings and Grounds Committee requests permission to bid out janitorial supplies to include cleaning solutions along with their dispensers. Be further resolved, these bid specs are also to include green products. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Luan?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Special Education Director Oleski.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Special Education Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas the Board of School Directors recognizes the district development of center-based educational program for students with disabilities specific to autism and emotional disturbances, and whereas the Scranton School District will enter into a lease agreement for an educational program as per attached. Therefore, be it resolved that the Scranton School Board authorizes the solicitor to review the attached policy and present it to the district administrator to establish, respectively submitted.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I would like to first off say that I completely support this program. I would like to have a Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting early next week to maybe go over the budget that we just received last week and talk about some impacts that it will have on the budget and where we're going to find some of this startup money going forward. So I would like to make a motion to table this until we could have a Budget and Finance Committee meeting to specifically go over the budget that we were given last week.
Second.
On the question of the tabling. Roll call?
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Duarte?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
No.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
No.
Dr. Rowan?
No.
Mr. Sheridan?
No.
Mr. Casey?
No.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
4 affirmative, 5 negative. Motion fails.
So now we're on the basic resolution now, right, Madam Chairman?
Yep. On the question on the resolution. Okay, on the question for this, I think that Director Donahue brings up a good point with this. You want to put the brakes on a food service and see if we can find any other savings out there for that. But this big nut that we're trying to crack here, and as he said, I'm in full agreement with this program, but I don't think we have the numbers yet to guarantee that this is going to be a savings for us. And once again, if this starts to cost us more money than we've budgeted for, we're going to be in trouble.
At the last work session, didn't you say that it was, you wouldn't be digging into any funds any deeper?
There was a lot of discussion.
Her
I think there was
hope
a lot
is-
of what
yeah,
ifs
her
involved
hope
with
is.
that.
All right.
On the question, I'd just like to say that I believe that the money that we're spending out through the district for our children to go into other programs, we would be saving it would basically break even for the first year. So I disagree.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's contingent upon us bringing the kids that have left back in and getting for them to agree to that.
I believe that we have done that, though. I believe that Gina has worked on that.
Correct, and we'll continue to work on it. Just to give you, so in the budget, what I presented to you was, which Mr. Sunday had asked for me to do, was to allocate the monies out to the end of this year that would need to be expended out. Just taking case in point, if you, I'll give you one example that I didn't give you in the last discussions that we had. The lease agreement which you have here. So in order to move forward with this, and I'd be happy to share and to meet monthly on any discussions we have in terms of costs for the program. But in order to move forward, we need a home for this school and we need a lease. So the lease amount is $6,000 in your hands. That's approximately $42,000. Last year, one student I spent, which Mr. Sunday has just paid that bill for extended school year. So summer programming for one student, I spent $37,000. That student will enter back into this program should it exist. So I'd be happy to go through the numbers for individual students as they approach back. The impact that our principals have, that our families have, that we have towards faith. Towards free and appropriate public education fully exists. And so I'm looking for that alternative to be able to do that for this district publicly. And then, with your permission, certainly, going out and advocating for our program to other school districts, for their students as well who are autistic and emotionally disturbed. But I'd be happy to share and continue to share numbers as our students come into enrollment. And another thing that I certainly am willing to do is factor in our staff and the hiring of our staff as our students become available to enter the program. So, for example, if if only X number of students are available to come into the program, we're certainly not going to hire those teachers and paraprofessionals and support staff until those students are committed to enter the program. So, you know, there are means that I've already thought about in terms of making sure that, you know, our numbers balance what it is that we pay out per month.
My only concern is that this money was not budgeted for, so where are we going to take that money from? And until we show that, clearly, I just don't think it's responsible for us to, and I'm not asking to delay it, you know, a year or till we get into budget time, but the lease doesn't start till June 1st, so why not take a couple weeks and maybe work some of this stuff out so we could feel, or at least I could feel more comfortable with the money that we're going to be spending in June, July, and August to get this going. That's my only point there. And actually there are some parts of this budget that are incomplete. There isn't a salary for a coordinator.
That's correct, because that's coming from within. That's intentional. It's
okay.
$0.
And there's no installation fees budgeted in for phone and internet.
If you do not see a dollar amount in the budget, it's because that dollar amount is not coming from the special education budget. So the dollar amount, if you flip to the final page of the budget, which I proposed to you in terms of the students who we will be supporting in this program, those funds, Mr. Donahue, have been budgeted for. They're currently what we expend every month in terms of educating those students right now in the district. So whether they're in an existing building like Neil Armstrong with an additional teacher, an additional paraprofessional at the district cost, those students you know, will be supported in this new program. So the costs are there.
I didn't see the proposal.
Excuse me?
I seen, well, Mr. Donahue provided me the handout, but that was 1.2 million. I'm assuming that was annually. The last page of the number of students was 1.2 annually. That wouldn't be monthly.
No, the initial page had the breakout for this school year, as well as the last page would tell you what amounts of money are currently being spent out per month.
Right.
Okay, so that's how I balanced it out in terms of what was requested of me.
I'm not sure. The sheet that Mr. Donahue gave me last week was $1.2 million on the last page. That's not what we pay per month.
The total expenditure for student, so what you had there, and I don't have that, I apologize, I walked upstairs, I don't have that in front of me. But what I did was I broke out what we pay per student for the year, and so that was on the last page. Correct.
Right, that was 1.2.
Right, what you saw on the first page was the allocation per the end of this school year, which would be obviously our budget year for what we have. And that number is less than what we currently pay out per month.
Okay. I didn't understand that, but I'm sure we could get together and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Colarossi, is this going to be a program that you intend on running all year? So it's going to be a summer program for the students also?
There will be some students who will maintain for 5 weeks in the summer.
Okay. And
they currently have that now as well. So there's no difference in terms of
we currently have that in our district now?
Yes.
Okay.
The ESRI is built into it, right?
Correct. As well. Yes. Thank you.
Ms. Calderas, I believe that right now we're paying the money out where this program you'll be staying here in the district, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we understand that, but I know that my concern is we're paying the money out and we have to get the parents to agree to bring their kids back into our district. So we have no doubt that this is going to be a wonderful program. But the question is, can we get all the kids back in? And I'll say it up front, I'm not a proponent of bringing kids in from other districts into our program. These teachers are going to be our union members. And I don't see how we bring other districts' children in to be taught by our staff. So if we set this up for bringing in every single kid that's being placed outside of our district now, and only half of them come back, I don't think we go out and look for the other half in other districts. I think we'd be foolish to do that.
The only comment I want to make on this is that our numbers in this particular area of disability are not only trending upward, they're trending upward exponentially. I mean, we have a rapidly growing autistic population, and unfortunately, the emotionally disturbed population is also trending upward. I honestly don't think that the number that we're dealing with now it will be an issue if you just look at how it trends. If you look at where our numbers have trended, and believe me, Madam Chairman, you have every reason to be concerned about this, because if only half are there, then we have a big hole to fill. I mean, I get that, but I honestly believe that where this population is trended, we'll be above where we're at now in our first year, because it's growing. It's just growing at such a rapid rate. And Mrs. Oleski, you see it more immediately than I do, but that's just the reality of what we're facing. It's unfortunate. I wish it was shrinking. I mean, I wish we didn't need this, but it's trending up.
And I agree that we need it. I'm just saying that since it wasn't budgeted for, that I would have just liked to have a conversation and a discussion about where this money is going to come from and what it's currently budgeted at.
Right.
I always vote for a discussion, but here we are.
And then lastly, Mrs. Colarossi, I don't know that you spoke about whether or not this would help us to save any money on the settlement side. Do you believe that it will?
When I started here, the #1 placement out of our settlements was 2 private placements. So when I started, we certainly did not have the number of students, and you know, Mr. Sunday, you can attest to that in terms of my one line item where we have gone up to 1.2 million right now, just in that one line item of special ed in terms of what we paid out last budget year. We've only budgeted $780,000. So you've approved $780,000, however, we've spent 1.2. So when you talk about spending outside of what we've currently budgeted, absolutely. So again, one of my, you know, if you've asked me, you know, where can you look to provide support for the students that you have in the district, and where can we look to operate and put our public program together, this is the one, in my opinion, at this point, only area. So the children that we placed out of settlement were because we did not have the appropriate supports and services in our current buildings. And so as a result of that, we paid for attorney fees. We paid for our attorney. We certainly paid for their attorney. And we paid for the settlement. And then I went and I paid for the private program. And we're still paying for the private program. So if you want to look at what we've already spent out there, that's certainly a dollar amount that is absolutely outstanding.
And then lastly, my concern is the next resolution that we have on here, where we're saying that we are going to oppose the federal reimbursements for what really is a part of this program too, because it's the access money, and we're seeing that cut, and we know that we certainly aren't getting the access money that we have in years past, and I'm worried that the special education funding will be cut even more.
Mr. King can speak to this. This was something that you had discussed at the last board meeting. Correct me if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you had discussed this with other superintendents, and other districts were in this avenue to do this. So I did not put this together.
No, I put this one
so
out.
I'm going to defer.
Districts across the state are putting these proposals out to just.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I just think it ties to this.
That's a huge amount of funding that all of our districts across the state, you know, for instance, we used to get close to $1 million in this.
What are you, 80?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And
So-
they changed the rules for what you can bill for.
Right. So, I mean, I guess what I would ask, if you were to be prudent in all of this, is to maybe look at this as if our special education funding were possibly hit with another 5% cut, or 10% cut, or even 20% cut. Can this still survive?
The bottom line for me is whether we do it or whether we farm it out privately. I'm still obligated to do it as we are. This is unfortunately the piece that we were discussing earlier in terms of the unfunded mandate. So the question on the table for me is not whether or not we're going to educate these students where they're at right now. I'm legally bound to do that. The question for me is can the district, is there support for the district to operate this ourselves and to own it and do it? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you are correct. The students are still going to have to be placed, and we're still going to have to support the private placements that these students are in.
Okay, and this is a one-year lease, or you have this set up for a four-year lease?
Correct. What you have in front of you for your review is a four-year lease.
I'd be much more comfortable doing this the way we did Camelot. Trial basis. Let's do it for a year and see if the savings are realized, and if they're not, we're not tied into a lease for 6 years. How would you feel about that?
I mean, we certainly can enter into discussions. This was presented
Tonight's
last week.
resolution is to move forward. We discussed this last week. We decided tonight we were going to move forward, and we beat this to death. And
Yeah, but we got the
the
budget
tabling
handed to
has
us
been voted down, and now I personally would like to take a vote to see if we have the votes to do it or not.
Mrs. Calarossi, can you continue to answer the question I asked, please?
I mean, the lease agreement that we received for review, and I submitted it to Attorney Nora for his review as well.
I reviewed it just strictly as to form, not in terms of what fine as to form.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
No.
Mr. Dewey?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
No.
6 affirmative, 3 negative, motion passes.
Yes. 10 and 2.
Members of the Board of the School and School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Special Education Committee that the following resolution be approved. Resolution opposing restricting I'm getting dry now, I need water. Federal medical assistance reimbursement. Whereas the Scranton School District is committed to providing all students with a free and appropriate public education, regardless to the disability, with the essential services to allow the children to become successful and productive citizens. And whereas the Scranton School District, like many other school districts, and intermediate units across the Commonwealth, rely on federal medical assistance reimbursement through the Medical Assistance School Board-Based Access Program to help fund essential services to the children with disabilities. And whereas, with the timely and consistent
Disbursement.
Yeah, why am I getting stuck? Disbursement of these funds is from the Department of Public Welfare to the Scranton School District for services that our students are entitled to by law, and which will have to fund these services to a local revenue. And whereas changes of eligible services for medical assistance has also resulted in a loss of millions of dollars to the school districts across the Commonwealth. And whereas more than $28 million in school district and intermediate unit reimbursements claims have been rejected by the Department of Public Welfare due to the insistence of evidence of private insurers will not cover these services where there is no experience of President of Pennsylvania or any other state of the Union, and private insurers cover these services. And whereas Pennsylvania is the only state in the country that requires a blanket letter of denial as a condition that the school districts to receive medical assistant reimbursements through the Medical Assistant School-Based Access Program. And whereas more than 100 insurers representing millions of dollars of unpaid reimbursements have yet to sign a blanket letter of denial, and whereas this as a result of millions of dollars of unpaid claims to essential services of the school district and intermediate units are required to provide to our students. And whereas the school district and intermediate units still have not received full payment of the claims from the 10 insurers that have signed a blanket letter of denial. And whereas there are still no resolution of unpaid claims to the Scranton School District has been informed of any of all unclaimed claims by May 5th of 2014 will permanently be dismissed and let unfunded. And whereas this is necessary and projected requirement of obtaining a blanket letter of denial risks leaving millions of dollars of the federal funding unclaimed for services provided to our children with disabilities, placing this full burden on our local taxpayers. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Board of School Directors and the Scranton School District urges the Pennsylvania General Assembly, Pennsylvania State Senate, the Corbett Administration, the Pennsylvania Department of Education to demand that the Department of Public Welfare and Public Consulting Group remove the unpreceded barriers of the requirements recently imposed on the recent federal medical assistant reimbursement through the Medical Assistance School-Based Access Program for essential services to Pennsylvania's most vulnerable children. The Scranton School District seeks support from other school boards, local legislators, and members of the State House of Education Committee in petitioning the Corbett Administration, the Department of Public Welfare, and the Public Consulting Group to allow the funding to flow to the school districts and intermediate units to support essential services to the students with disability. This resolution will be shared with the Pennsylvania Associate and Intermediate Units of Pennsylvania School Districts, Intermediate Units, Pennsylvania School Board Association, local legislators and members of the Senate House of Education Committees, the Governor's Office, and the Department of Public Welfare and Public Consulting Group, respectively submitted.
Second.
On the question about on the question, roll call.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Luan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuigan?
Yes.
9 affirmative.
Under the President's report, I just have a couple of items. I think that Mr. Quinn has left for the evening, but in regards to his comments about the school board informing the public of the Homesteaders Act, I think a group so-called the Scranton-Lackawanna Taxpayer Association should be able to help in that regard. Certainly they get more TV time than we do. I see our meetings are taped but are never shown on TV. Secondly, Ms. Crocus spoke to the PTAs and the need to get more parents at the PTAs, but I sure would like to see more tea in the PTA at the meetings too. And then finally, I'm going to read a letter that was addressed to the Scranton School Board. And it's in regard to notice of inappropriate communications. Please be advised, dear school board members, please be advised that I represent the Scranton Association of Supervisors and Administrators. And in that capacity, it has come to my attention that certain members of the school board are having personal discussions with individual administrators, district employees, and/or other third parties regarding disciplinary matters and/or the proposed termination of certain district employees. This conduct will not be tolerated, and we are prepared to offer specifics if necessary or compelled to do so. Needless to say, it is entirely improper for any board member to have discussions about the potential termination of a professional employee. In fact, it is entirely inappropriate for any member of the board to be involved in any aspect of the discipline process prior to a formal recommendation of discipline by the superintendent because, as you know, the board is ultimately responsible for presiding over a dismissal or termination hearing if it gets to that point. By participating in the disciplinary process or deciding on a course of discipline in advance of any hearing, the board cannot act fairly or impartially at the hearing, which constitutes a violation of a professional employee's constitutional right to due process. With that said, while certain members of the school board may want to replace or terminate certain administrative employees for their own personal reasons or because of personal relationships with other district employees, the Public School Code of Pennsylvania does not allow for such personal, arbitrary, and/or capricious actions. As you know, it is very difficult to terminate a professional employee under the Public School Code, which provides very strict and limited bases for dismissal of said employees. Thus, unless an administrator engages in any such conduct that would qualify for a dismissal under any of those strict statutory bases of the Public School Code, termination is entirely unwarranted and should not even be discussed by a board member. We will not sit idly aside and allow the school board to continue to discuss and personally deliberate proposed disciplinary matters in violation of the applicable constitutional and ethical standards. This unfortunately has become prevalent in this school district, and we will make every effort to put an end to it. Accordingly, if any adverse employment action is taken against any member of my association, we will certainly raise these inappropriate communications as an issue and look to remove any school board member who has engaged in such unconstitutional and unethical conduct. Such actions will also be looked upon as a discriminatory act, which, depending on the nature of the discipline or act, may result in a separate legal action in the appropriate judicial or regulatory forum. If you have any other questions in the meantime, please do not hesitate to contact me. Otherwise, please be guided accordingly. Very truly yours, Frank J. Tunis, Jr. And that's all I have under the President's report. Mr. Duahi, I believe you have something under new business that you wanted to bring up.
The idea of us having an open night for taxpayer input on the request to go above the cap. Can we do that in a timely fashion next week?
Certainly.
At Scranton High School, I think is appropriate because it gives us a lot of seats and it's parking. Now, the problem with Scranton High School next week is there are two really large functions at the stadium. Monday and Tuesday are the district AA and AAA track and field championship. So we probably have to go past that, right? Wednesday, Thursday?
I agree with that.
On
Wednesday the 4th, we have three.
There's also honors program at Scranton High
Yes,
School.
it's awards night, yeah.
Yes.
It's awards night.
I'd also like to add that
Thursday the 15th?
that we properly advertising, not so classified, but maybe do an advertising, so all residents can be notified of this hearing and have an opportunity to come in and speak.
Mrs. Orr? Thank you.
So
All right.
Thursday the 15th, is that amenable to everybody?
What time?
As long, just please check with the school to make sure that we're not putting the kids out there.
It looks like it's a good novel, we'll check with this.
Is 7 a reasonable hour? Is that civilized?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.
If you're busy, that's...